right, welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Monday, the 10th of April. Good to have you aboard. We are a Blue Wire podcast. However you're listening to this show, make sure you like, you rate, you comment, you do all that fun stuff. It's great for the algorithm. That means it's great for me. Then I get all the monies. I'm very happy. I keep pumping out the shows. That makes all of you very happy. You keep supporting our sponsors. That makes all of them very happy. Oh my God, the world is going to be so happy. We got a lot going on, a lot to catch up on from the weekend. We got the Panthers playing super meaningful games this final week of their regular season. We have the Miami Heat set the play-in for the first time ever. The Miami Heat will participate in the play-in tournament. That will be tomorrow night. We got all kinds of NBA action to recap from the weekend. No league does the drama like the NBA. Over the weekend, you had the UFC 287 was here at what's now called Kaseya Center. That's the new arena name there in Miami, Kaseya Center. So UFC 287 was there this weekend. So like I said, we got a lot happening here. The biggest story, of course, is Udonis Haslem closing out his career in style. So we'll get to that. Oh my God. An all-time game for Udonis Haslem and the Miami Heat. Oh, amazing. Love it so much. So anyway, let's get things started here. I'll tell you what I had going on over the weekend, all right? So, I like to start out with some fun stuff that we did over the weekend. And here's what we got. Excuse me. So, UFC 287. I did not watch it live. But based on what I saw, it seemed like you had a great crowd. And the reason that I bring that up is it's important because you want UFC to come back here. UFC hadn't been here in forever. And part of that is because I was at the last fight night that they did. And part of it was because I don't think we do combat sports well here in South Florida. But also, UFC brought a shit card that fight night, whatever it was, 10 some odd years ago. More than that, maybe even. So it took that long for UFC to come back here. And guess what? You had a great crowd because it was a pay-per-view show, great main event, great co-main event with Masvidal. So even though the prices are totally outrageous, and that's what prevented me from going, I wanted to go take my son. But the prices were terrible. So there's no way I'm paying that. But you want more of those events down here. It's a fun event. Maybe one day I end up making my way to one of those shows I'd really like to. But the fact that the crowd looked really good, looked like a hot crowd, based on the highlights that I saw, you're hoping that you get UFC down here again. All the stars were out there. Excuse me. You had President Trump. You had Mike Tyson. You had Kid Rock. You had, former great fighters, Donald Cerrone, Chuck Liddell, my guy, Georges St. Pierre. I saw Joe Burrow in the crowd there, Odell Beckham Jr. So the stars were out in full force like they always are for the UFC events. Seemed like a really fun event. Now, before, I don't want to do too many details, right? Because I want to get to the main stuff, which of course is Udonis Haslem and what's going on with the Panthers here. But Masvidal, let's start with him. So Masvidal loses to Gilbert Burns by decision. Masvidal, very difficult to knock out. So you're not surprised that he didn't win. You're not surprised that it went to decision. It seemed like he got beat pretty handily throughout the 3 rounds. But the news, obviously, is not that Masvidal lost. The news is that Masvidal, after the fight, announced that he's hanging it up.
Everybody here, thank you everybody for watching. But this is where I started my career now. It's been a long 20 years, 50-something fights. Sometimes your favorite basketball player ain't got that three-pointer no more. Your favorite quarterback loses that rifle. I don't feel the same when I get in here no more. It's been 20 long years. I love all of you. UFC came here 20 years ago, and it inspired me to chase this dream for 20 years, 50-some fights later. Hopefully I inspired somebody in here to go fight for theirs, no matter what it is. If it's in the sports world, if it's in the fucking entertainment world, if it's in whatever world, the 9 to 5. I love everybody. I love this fucking sport. I'm a multi-millionaire. I didn't start from shit. I didn't have shit when I started. And I can say I'm good for life now. 20 long years, Joe. I love you guys, man.
Seems like a no-brainer there for Masvidal. It seems like he never wins anymore. And he starts his career, obviously, in the backyards in Miami. And then he winds up finishing his career in front of 20,000 people at Kaseya Center, all right? That seems like the way to go. Excellent job out of him. Clearly, it sounds like he made a lot of money. He's made more money than I thought he's made. So, clearly, it sounds like he's made a lot of money. Masvidal, he goes out on his own terms. He doesn't go out staring up at the lights, all right? Decision, so good job out of him. You get out at the right time. Masvidal retires. Everybody down here loves him. The big story, though, was Israel Adesanya winning back his middleweight championship belt. He does it in I guess, tremendous fashion, right? Knocks Pereira out early in the second round. Brutal knockout. Buddy's lights were out. And so then you have Adesanya, who he does his celebrating that whole deal, finally beats this guy. This guy was always beating him, going back to their pre-UFC days. And the crowd's going crazy. So Adesanya apparently was pointing at someone in the crowd. And then he does a mock like going to sleep, where he just falls down on his side on the mat. And as we learn, he was pointing at Pereira's family, but specifically his son, who, I don't know, he's a boy. And so this got a lot of attention. That's really, like, why would he do that? Well, here's Israel Adesanya after the match explaining what happened there.
Oh, no, I'm petty, bro. I remember. So the first time he knocked me out in Brazil, his son came into the ring and then started to just lie dead next to me. And I'm like, you fucking little asshole. I'll whoop your ass if your dad don't do it for you. But then, I looked for his kid and I pointed at him and I saw him and I was like, hey.
All right, so there was a fight back, like one of the first times, maybe the first time they fought. Israel Adesanya got knocked out and Pereira is in the ring celebrating with his family. And you have, like, I don't know, like, Adesanya may have still been not knocked out, but may have still been being attended to on the mat. And the kid at the time, I think he may have been like 6. The kid at the time goes in the ring and does the mock going to sleep, like falls over, mocking Adesanya. So Adesanya remembered, he really didn't like it, and so he's pointing at the kid that, hey, I just knocked your dad. And very controversial. What? The kid. Well, first of all, Adesanya's telling you there, he's petty like that. And I gotta be honest with you, I have no problem with it. No problem with it. You gotta think about this for a second. Even if you didn't see the video of the kid mocking Adesanya, it's a pretty serious thing when you knock someone out. And for the kid to be in the ring there, a kid to be in the ring there and mocking the fighter who was knocked out cold. First of all, kids to be not mocking any fighters, these guys are, like, they're on another level, man. But to be mocking a fighter who's just knocked out cold, it's so disrespectful. And it's not even like, hey, you're getting the kid back. He's essentially getting Pereira back, that you allowed your kid to behave this way. It's really disrespectful. I know, look, it's a controversial thing. A lot of people didn't like it. I have no problem with Adesanya being petty like that and pointing at the kid when he knocked his father out. I have no issue with that. Again, like I said, that may be a very controversial side to be on. I can understand people who don't like it. But I also have no problem with Adesanya being angry about that still, and how disrespectful that is. That he allowed his son to do that. Yeah. And who knows, maybe after the fight he told the son, hey, this is not the way we behave. Doesn't matter, it happened. It was there for everybody to see, and it's really disrespectful. I have no problem with Adesanya doing that. No problem. But again, if you think it's distasteful, totally get it. Totally get where you're coming from. So, UFC 287 seemed to be a great show. You had a great finish, great main event. Masvidal, he's done with. There you have it. I'd love to go to one of those shows one day, but not for the prices. I mean, we're talking, like, to sit in the lower level, it was like $800 for the cheapest lower level seat. The upper level, which I'm not going to sit in, was like $400. And I mean, the floor, you're talking $1,000. You don't want to sit on the floor anyway. You probably want to be in the lower level, a little elevated. But anyway, I'm never going to go if the prices are like that. So that's just unfortunate. Most people like me are never going to go unless the prices are like that. I don't care enough. I'd like to go, but I don't care enough. All right. So anyway, that's what took place on Saturday night at the Kaseya Center. That's right. Now, you know how I always like to catch up a little bit on some of the fun stuff I did over the weekend. I didn't see any movies. I always tell you the big movies and the not big movies over the weekend. I didn't see any movies, but I did start and finish a couple of shows. So I know I'm way behind on this one, but me and my son, we banged it out over the weekend, real easy, just 6 episodes. We watched The White Lotus Season 1. I know everyone raves about this White Lotus, so we finally decided, you know what? Let's do it. Let's watch this show. Everyone loves it. So we watched White Lotus Season 1. I really liked it. Show's wild. Obviously, my son thought it was a little bit weird, but I think for the most part, he enjoyed it. My wife watched the first episode with us. She was not into it. It couldn't keep her attention. It certainly starts out slow, but I dug it. I'm looking forward to watching Season 2. That's obviously available right now on HBO Max. So White Lotus, we really dug. I thought it was super weird, but I like that kind of stuff. Number 2 show that I started watching this weekend. I watched the first few episodes. This show, which I think it's also HBO Max, this show called Crashing by comedian Pete Holmes. He created and stars in the show. He's a young comedian and has so many named comedians and who are playing themselves in it. But he's a young comedian. The show shows you the struggles of a young comedian trying to work in that profession in New York City. And I sent my buddy Dave Williamson a text message out there in Los Angeles. And I said to him, I go, yo, have you ever seen the show Crashing by Pete Holmes on HBO? And he told me, yeah, it's a great show. He knows some guys who wrote on the show. And I said to him, I said, yeah, it's a great show. And it seems like a horrible lifestyle. And he said, yeah, like it could totally be really bad. And just the sleeping on other comics' couches, working for little or no pay, and the way you're hustling out there just apparently probably for so long, hoping that you get some kind of break. It seems like such a horrible, really hard lifestyle. And probably gives you a lot of perspective. Because you know I love talking to the comedians. Gives you a lot of perspective on just how much these guys love what they do. That they go through this to get to that place. And I also thought it was something really interesting. I forget which comedian is the one who told him this. Oh, it's TJ Miller. So TJ Miller is in a couple of the episodes. And TJ Miller tells him how it's so much fun, when you're coming up because you're performing at these clubs in the city with all your friends and you're hanging out before. And then you go do your act and then you're hanging out afterward. It's a great time even though you're making no money. Everybody's having a lot of fun. And then when it really sucks is when you're out on the road making a lot of money because then it's lonely. Because then you're traveling everywhere by yourself. You do the show, and you're used to, after the show, just going back to the bar, all your friends, you're joking, you're busting on each other, you're drinking, you're having a great time. Well, that's not the case when you're on the road. Yeah, you're making the money, but you're on the road, and you're alone. And then you're by yourself in your hotel room, or whatever, sad city you're in. And I thought that's a really interesting perspective. I never really thought it that way. So anyway, I love talking to the comics. We go to stand-up comedy all the time. Crashing on HBO. I think it's a couple years old. I think I'm also late to the party on that one. But I'm really enjoying that show. All right, anyway. And I've not watched last night's Succession yet. I'm going to watch that this afternoon. So there's a lot happening here. Let's get after it, okay? First, though, I got to tell you guys, if you're dealing with a leak in your home, that could end up being a major problem. You got to find out where that's coming from. Well, I'm telling you right now, I don't want to have that problem. And if you're a listener to ZASLOW Show 2.0, I don't want you to have that problem. So I'm sending you to my guys, the Greensteins. Call or text Water Cleanup of Florida at 954-900-8635. Michael Greenstein, Adam Greenstein, they're going to take care of you, okay? With over 60 years of combined experience, their team at Water Cleanup of Florida, they're prepared to handle all types of leak detection issues 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And after the leak is located and repaired, Water Cleanup of Florida is not done. They're going to clean, dry, and fully restore the damaged areas. That's right. They serve the entire Tri-County area, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. They're fully licensed, insured, and certified to provide that one-stop shopping that all of us busy homeowners and busy business owners require. You don't need to bring in other contractors. They're going to handle the entire project from start to finish. Water Cleanup of Florida. Call or text any time of day. 954-900-8635 or go to WCUFL.com. Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. So, that includes holidays, by the way. Like yesterday, Easter. Happy Easter to everybody. If you got an issue, call or text them on Easter. It's okay. They're going to come out. They know how important this is. They're going to take care of you. 954-900-8635. Okay, so yesterday's Heat game. Yesterday afternoon, the Heat beat the Magic. Who the hell cares? But, and we'll get to the playoff matchups and all that. We got our NBA rundown coming up. Presented, of course, every Monday by Brunt Insurance. We'll get to that momentarily. The playoff matchups and play-in matchups are all set here. We'll get to that. That gets going tomorrow night, including the Heat, who are hosting Atlanta tomorrow night at 7:30. So, Udonis Haslem's last regular season game of his career. 20 years. We all know he's retiring. He's not leaving the team, but he's retiring from being on the team after this season. So, UD, 24 points, 3 rebounds, 9 of 17 from the floor, knocks down a career-high 3 triples. Udonis Haslem gave us an all-time memory in his final game. And it's funny because, you know, when Dwayne Wade was going into his final game, so we're talking about 2019, right? So 4 years ago. And I remember doing shows that morning with Romberg. And Romberg, you know, and look, Wade was still a good player. He wasn't great anymore, but he was still a really good player. And you knew he can, you know, he's still got a 25, 30-point game in him. He did it several times that year. But going into the last game, it's like you were hoping so badly. Man, can Wade give us one last great performance? And I'm talking about the home game, because Wade had a final home game, and then the next game was the final game of his career, and that was on the road in Brooklyn, which, as Eric Reed pointed out on the broadcast yesterday, the Heat lost that game by 19 in Brooklyn. They were getting blown out the whole game. Nobody cared. Game was amazing. Crowd was chanting, "Let's go Heat." Crowd was chanting, "Paul Pierce sucks." Amazing moments. So, Dwayne Wade that day is going to play his final home game. And I remember Romberg's like, Wade is going to be amazing tonight. I'm like, really? What if he's not? He's not the same guy he used to be. And Romberg was like so dead set on, he's an all-time great player. You don't understand. He's going to be able to have this amazing performance tonight if he wants to. And Romberg was right. Because remember, he was hitting the threes, three-pointer. Like, oh my God! And then he fell on the lap of John Legend and his wife, who I don't like her at all. Whatever the hell her name is, Chrissy Teigen. I do not like her. And Gabrielle is super excited. So anyway, Romberg was totally right. The huge. I mean, Kobe, his final game, he has the 60. These all-time great players, they're going to be able to muster it up for that one final time. He was right. But that's not Udonis Haslem. UD's not that guy. And UD hasn't been playing. Now, of course, he's playing in practice every day. But that ain't UD. He's not that star player. He's never been that star player. Or, all right, he could, hey, tonight, I'm going to carry us. I'm going to put us on our back. That's not him. For UD to get out there and have that game that he had, it's an all-time South Florida sports moment. It really was. He gave us an all-time game, an all-time memory, that the way we remember Dwayne Wade's final game, which was meaningless because the Heat were missing the playoffs, we're going to remember what UD, it was amazing for UD and his family, but how about what UD gave us in his final game? If you were in the arena, Kaseya Center, if you were in the arena, you're jumping up and down. If you're sitting on the couch in the ZASLOW Mansion family room like me, you're hooting and hollering with what UD is doing. how about what UD did for us in the fans in his final game? That wasn't just for him and his family. That was for us. He gave us an all-time game. I was so proud of him. I was so happy for him because it wasn't just about looking like, so the game starts, he misses a reverse layup. It's like, all right, I hope he gets a basket. Like, you knew he was going to play a lot, but I hope he gets some baskets this game. And then a couple minutes later, he has the basket streaking to the hoop, in transition. Okay, and Eric Reed is super excited, and the crowd's super excited. And it's like, all right, good. He got a basket. Nice. We're good. And it's like, no, we got a lot more going on here. Because then, just like 2 minutes later, after missing his first couple, UD was a little bit of a chucker earlier in the game yesterday. Let's be honest. And then UD gets it to drop from deep.
Bam back taps for Strus. Udonis. You did it! Haslem triples for the first time this year and for the 7th time in his 20-season NBA career.
So UD now buries that three. Great call from Eric Reed. The crowd is super excited. It's like, oh my God. So UD gets a basket and he also hits a three-pointer. Like, we're good, right? He ends up scoring 13 points in the first quarter. Holy shit. I can't believe he's doing this. And then they get into transition, and you got to tell me, what's crazier? UD throwing down the lob, or Duncan Robinson decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw this lob to UD.
Michael Carter-Williams, pass deflected, stolen away by Caleb Martin. Here he comes. Duncan, back to Udonis! Oh my! That 42-year-old man just jumped right out of the building, just like he used to.
Amazing. And it's not just that UD got up. And it's not just that UD got up there, but how about Duncan, who ain't the best passer? Duncan throws it right on the money. There's a lot of pressure on Duncan there. UD gives the ball to Duncan where you kind of know, oh, if he's giving it to me this fast on the break, he wants it back. And Duncan with the perfect lob, and UD gets up with no problem. And then we get to the second half, and UD, he's given us the entire repertoire.
The second score, the Heat ahead by 13. A little more than 3 minutes to go. Udonis. And a foul! Yes, take a picture. Remember this one forever.
Unbelievable. He gave us an he ends up in two more threes. He hits a three with like a minute left. Spo stops the clock by getting the team to foul. He gets a huge ovation coming off the floor. I'm sorry. UD was going to play. I put out a poll yesterday. Will UD get a double-double? Didn't come close. He only had 3 rebounds. But I was like, best case scenario, 10 points, 10 rebounds. This was so much better. 24 points? Again, it's not like Wade or Kobe mustering up that final big performance. You couldn't have expected anything like this from UD. And for him to give us that one final memory, an all-time memory, an all-time game. And here's the thing, Dwayne Wade's final game, because that Heat team wasn't going to win anything, and they fell a little bit short of the playoffs, whatever it was, but Dwayne Wade's final game, coming that game in Brooklyn, where he gets the triple-double, which, oh my God, UD hits the jumper for the triple-double. Unbelievable. But it was a good thing that team didn't make the playoffs. Because we got to celebrate knowing, okay, this is Wade's final home game, and he was amazing. Okay, this is Wade's final game, and he was amazing. And then it was over. Because if we get to the playoffs, and I don't know who the number 1 seed was that year, 2019. I know Toronto, of course, won the championship. I don't think they were the number 1 seed. But whoever it was, Okay, so that Heat team gets to the first round, they get swept, they're losing 5, and so Wade's final game is him sitting on the bench and the whole team is sulking because their season is ending, not the way they wanted to. Like, that sucks as a final game. So it was a good thing that the Heat did not make the playoffs that year because we got this amazing, lasting image of Dwayne Wade. This was similar because while this Heat team is going to the playoffs, UD's not playing in the playoffs. There's no scenario, especially now, based on what we saw yesterday. There's no scenario where UD is going to play in the playoffs. Certainly not meaningful minutes, and even in garbage time. Why? This was the last send-off. This was his final appearance. This was perfect. If Wade's final team went to the playoffs, you need Dwayne Wade to play. He was one of our best players, even though not a great player anymore. But UD, there's no scenario where he's going to play in the playoffs. So the way Dwayne Wade was able to go out, it's pretty similar to the way UD is going out, where they were allowed to have these amazing moments without the huge stakes of a playoff game or that lasting image sitting on the bench sulking because the season's now over with a playoff loss and a first-round exit. So I want to talk real quick here about my favorite memories of UD. And I got 2 that really stand out to me. When you're talking about all-time great memories, all-time great moments. I know, everyone loves to talk about the Tyler Hansbrough game. And it's obviously awesome. Hansbrough with the really hard foul on Wade. I think he made Wade bleed. And then UD gets in his face, and he's going to beat the shit out of him. It was a quintessential UD moment. What was it, in 2013? Quintessential UD moment. It's what he's about, He's an enforcer. He's a protector. I think that's a better way to put it. Rather than enforcer, he's a protector. But I have 2 all-time moments that are my favorite Udonis Haslem moments, which one of them leads directly to a championship, and the other one, while it didn't lead to a championship, really saved the season. The first one, 2006 NBA Finals. And I believe it was Game 3. When the Heat are down 2-0 against the Mavericks, and UD officially became the Dirk stopper. UD just D'ing up Dirk Nowitzki, was amazing against him. And there was one play where UD D'd him up at the top of the circle, ended up getting the steal, and went in the other way. He was fouled going up for what would have been the dunk. The place would have exploded. But UD, in that moment, and we know Gary Payton hit the game-winning shot, but UD saved that series when he became the Dirk stopper. I believe it was in Game 3. That's the first one that comes to mind. My second that comes to mind, Game 2, Eastern Conference Finals, 2011. The Heat got smoked in Game 1 in Chicago. Udonis Haslem missed most of that season with injury, a foot injury. He returned for that game. Not 100%, but hey, the team needs me. I gotta try and play. And he wasn't definitely going to play because he was not healthy. And the Heat are down in the second half. Down by 5 or something. Coach brings in UD. All right, let's see what you got. UD won the Heat that series. He won them that game. And that game ended up winning them the series. You can't go down 0-2. UD comes in the game, and we're talking right early on. He gets a block on one end of the floor, and then a huge dunk on the other end, streak into the lane. And then a couple minutes after that, another big dunk, streak into the lane, and the foul. And the Heat then went on a big run, and they smoked the Bulls in the fourth quarter. Series tied 1-1. Heat go up, and the Heat ends up winning 4 in a row. UD turned that series around. The Heat go to the finals. They lose the Mavericks. LeBron didn't want to post up J.J. Barea. Disgrace. But UD, my 2 favorite UD moments. 2006 Finals, I believe it was Game 3 when he became the Dirk Stopper. 2011 East Finals turns the series around, that Game 2 in Chicago. For me, those are my two all-time favorite Udonis Haslem memories / moments. The best. Just the best. What a memory he gave us yesterday. What a great day for him. Love it. And of course, I've been saying this for years. Like now, it's stupid to even talk about it. But I remember I used to get pushback when I started talking about this, even 10 years ago. And I started to get pushback on this. When I would say back then, Udonis Haslem is a lock to have his jersey retired by the franchise. And now there's no pushback. But I used to get some pushback back then. You're nuts. It's a mortal lock. And I don't know if it'll be the first game next year, although it'd be great if it were, but they're going to retire his jersey next season. That's just a fact. In the Kaseya Center rafters. So there you have it. Tomorrow night, the Heat are in Atlanta. No, I'm sorry, the Heat host Atlanta. Play-in game. I like that the Heat are in this play-in. I already told you that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you're the number 7 seed, you get 2 chances to win 1. You get 2 chances at home to win 1. Atlanta's not good. The Heat won 3 out of 4 against the Hawks this year. And here's what Trae Young has looked like against the Heat this year. You ready? Trae Young in 4 games this year against Miami is averaging 19.8 points, 3.3 rebounds, 9.8 assists, shooting just 36% overall, 21% from 3. His field goals in each game, 9 for 17, 2 for 13, 6 for 13, 4 for 16. It's been terrible against the Heat. So, I don't know anyone who's going to pick Atlanta in this game tomorrow. If the Heat were to lose, then they would host on Friday the winner of Toronto-Chicago, which I think most of us believe it will be Toronto. But so tomorrow night, the Heat, first time ever in the play-in. I like it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. That's what we got right there. All right. It's Monday. So you guys know what time it is. Every Monday, we got to take a look back. Let's do our weekend NBA rundown. Yes, brought to us by Brunt Insurance. That's right. Every Monday, we do our NBA rundown brought to us by Brunt Insurance. You got to make sure you're insured because God forbid there's an accident with your home. Hey, who's going to pay for that? Very expensive if there's major damage to your home. Well, Brunt Insurance, they're going to sort it all out for you. You don't want to just go online all willy-nilly, all right, let me type in homeowners insurance. No. From Pensacola to the Keys and beyond, Brunt Insurance is delivering the comprehensive insurance that is tailored to fit your needs. Since 2013, they've specialized in not just home, but auto, life insurance. You can find them on all the social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I told you, I've been using Brunt Insurance for about 10 years now. I trust Greg Brunt and his team, and if I trust them, hey, I'm not going to recommend them to you if it's not something that I use myself. So I know when I go to sleep at night, I don't have to worry. I'm going to be taken care of. God forbid there's a major accident. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. Market's confusing. Let Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance sort it all out for you with his fully licensed staff, and they know the area. I already told you, Pensacola, the Keys, and beyond, wherever you're calling from here in Florida, they're going to know what kind of coverage you need. So if you need that affordable care, of course you do. That offers the best coverage for your auto, motorcycle, boat. Hey, not just homeowners, renters insurance, condo insurance. BruntInsurance.com, 954-589-2204. That's 954-589-2204. All right, let's get to our weekend NBA rundown. It's going to include taking a look at this playoff picture, but we do have a few news and notes as far as the NBA goes from over the weekend. Yesterday, so the Timberwolves, who have, it's not been a good season for the Timberwolves. They traded everything for Rudy Gobert, and he's a stiff. I've been telling you this for years. They trade everything for Rudy Gobert, and what does it amount to? An 8th place finish where they're going to play tomorrow night at the Los Angeles Lakers in the 7-8 play-in game. But the big story was the Timberwolves sending Rudy Gobert home in the middle of the game because during a timeout, Rudy Gobert, Kyle Anderson, they're yelling at each other. Rudy Gobert then like with his go-go gadget arms, reaches like 10 feet across, punches Kyle Anderson in the chest. Now, I guess, you say, hey, it's not like he punched him in the face. That's true, but a straight right punch into his chest. Torian Prince jumps off, immediately pushes Gobert away. Gobert backpedaling as Kyle Anderson now wants to squat him. I mean, that was soft as hell. Gobert is so big. He punches Kyle Anderson, and he was practically running away. The only thing softer was punching his teammate in that spot. But here's the thing. So Adrian Wojnarowski, he then gets the hot tip, the sources telling him what the argument was about. Rudy Gobert Kyle Anderson's yelling to Rudy Gobert, block an effing shot. Rudy Gobert yells to him, grab an effing rebound. Kyle Anderson then tells him, something, you bleeping bitch. And then Gobert punches him. And apparently it's carried over then into halftime where they're yelling at each other. They sent Gobert home. Disaster. 5 first-round picks, $200 million for this guy. Now, are they going to suspend him for the play-in game tomorrow night? I say probably not, but that's a terrible situation. And then you got fighting on the Clippers bench as well. Yesterday, Clippers playing the Suns. Mason Plumlee, Bones Highland, they had to be separated, pushing and shoving. That one's not so, it was an ugly scene, but that one's not such a big deal. That stuff happens on the bench, pushing and shoving, guys yelling at each other. I mean, Bones Highland doesn't have the greatest reputation, but that's not such a big deal. The Gobert one, that's a big deal. And, this isn't a big deal or not a big deal, but if it were, I'd say a big deal. So, you had some fighting there on benches late in games, and then you also have the Mavericks situation. The last 2 games, the Mavericks throw in the towel. They decide to tank the final 2 games of the season. Luka Doncic on Slovenian night. So they say, all right, this is a disaster. Luka, go out and play the first quarter, then that's it. Luka was not happy about it. He wanted to play. Team wouldn't let him. Kyrie Irving, of course he didn't want to play. Team probably didn't want him to play either. Kyrie Irving sits out the last 2 games. They obviously lose those 2 games. And now, unless someone jumps them in the lottery, they will be the 10th team. Their lottery pick is top 10 protected. They'll keep their pick. If a team jumps them in the lottery, the Knicks get their pick because of the Porzingis trade a few years ago. So, the Mavericks, all right, Mark Cuban, he sucks. Mark Cuban protests a game a couple weeks ago on a play that he was completely incorrect about, and the officials did nothing wrong. Protests. And now at the end of the season, he's losing games on purpose. That franchise sucks. That's why I was asking. We had NBA people on the show after they made the Kyrie Irving trade, and what was my first question? Are the Mavericks a good franchise? And the answer is they're not. And you could say, look, Mark Cuban willfully injected poison into his team. You could say this isn't Kyrie Irving's fault all you want, but when you acquire a great player, this isn't complicated. When you acquire a great player, that guy will usually help your team after you acquire him. The Mavericks were 4th when they acquired Kyrie Irving. They missed the playoffs. They were 5-11 in games that Kyrie and Luka played together. They got Hey, does it take time, chemistry? I guess. They acquired a supposed star player in Kyrie Irving. They got worse. Do you expect it like this to have to take off and you're a championship team immediately? No. But when you acquire a star player, is it a fair expectation that your team gets better as opposed to getting worse? Yes. Yes, that is a fair expectation. Mark Cuban willfully injected poison into his team. And then at the end of the year, they tanked the games. And not to mention, Kyrie Irving, of course, doesn't even show up at the end. We'll get to that. That'll be a big deal or not a big deal. All right. So again, that was the few news and notes, the hot stories from over the weekend. But let's take a look here at NBA. Like, what does a playoff picture look like? So here's what we got. Everybody calm down. So tomorrow night, you got the 7-8 play-in games. Atlanta at Miami, followed by Minnesota at the Lakers. Everybody's going to pick Miami in that game. Minnesota at the Lakers. I'm going to pick the Lakers. So I don't trust Minnesota. I don't trust Karl Anthony Towns. Love Anthony Edwards. But, you know, if I got one game and it's LeBron, and it's one game with LeBron and not against, like, the first and the second seed, it's against the Timberwolves. And maybe Gobert's going to be suspended. I don't know. So I think the Lakers will win that game. And then the 9-10 playing games are on Wednesday night. Chicago at Toronto. I think Toronto wins that. And Oklahoma City at New Orleans. That game's a toss-up. I could totally see Oklahoma City winning that game. So if it goes the way that I think it will, Miami wins. They will play Boston in the first round. The LA Lakers win. They will play Memphis in the first round, which will be a lot of fun. Then Minnesota would host the winner of Oklahoma City at New Orleans. I think Minnesota will host Oklahoma City. And then Atlanta, they will host the winner of Chicago-Toronto. I think Atlanta will host Toronto. That will be on Thursday. And then the final game will be Friday before those teams play in the first round of the playoffs on Sunday. So, the matchups that we know in both the East and Western conferences. It's likely going to be the Heat and Boston. But the ones that we know, and if that's the case, that would be on Saturday. That series would open up. I believe Saturday afternoon in Boston, 3:30. Philadelphia has Brooklyn in the first round. I'm not going to give out my picks until all the first round matchups are set, so we'll do that at the end of the week. But Philadelphia and Brooklyn, Cleveland, New York. That's going to be a great series. I don't think Philadelphia-Brooklyn's going to be very good. Cleveland-New York is going to be a great series. I could see it going either way. I'm tempted to pick the Knicks. I'm not making my pick just yet. I do think it's a long series. As long as Julius Randle's playing. I don't know what his status is right now. And in the West, I think you're going to get the Lakers in Memphis. That'll be fun. But here's what we know. Sacramento, Golden State in the first round. Golden State, with the season they've had, couldn't have asked for a better matchup. You got a super inexperienced Sacramento team. Look, the Warriors are terrible on the road. Terrible on the road. Sacramento's got a great home court advantage, and those fans will be rabid because they haven't had playoffs in 17 years. 16 or 17 years. And then you have Phoenix and the LA Clippers. Not sure what Paul George's status is. He's probably not playing in the first round. And if that's the case, I could see Phoenix winning the series 4-0. Phoenix has not lost with Kevin Durant in their lineup. They're 8 or 9-0. Phoenix, they're going to smoke the Clippers if Paul George doesn't play. It doesn't look like he's playing. And of course, Denver, they're going to play whoever wins the 8th seed. Milwaukee, on the other side, they're going to play whoever wins the 8th seed. And that right there is our weekend NBA rundown, brought to us by Brunt Insurance. BruntInsurance.com. Make sure my man Greg Brunt and his team, they will take care of you. You got to make sure you're insured. 954-589-2204. BruntInsurance.com.